This is the Mended Paths Podcast with Chadwick Hayward, episode 25.
Road to mendedpaths.com. Let's get back to bedside.
Hi, Path Menders. Thanks so much for tuning in to the 25th episode of the Mended Paths Podcast. This week, I'm speaking with Mr. Justin Lacy. There was a time when Justin was forced to use crutches to move his 500-pound body around, if he could move at all. He suffered with pain and disease every day. Then, his mom had a stroke. He saw the sadness and pain of not only his mom, but all those family and friends who stood around her bedside. Despite all the hurt and issues he was facing personally, it was his overwhelming desire not to inflict needless suffering on his family, who would inevitably be standing at his bedside, that inspired him to mend his path. Justin then made a vow, a sacred self-promise to seek out how to be as healthy as possible. This promise has driven him and his actions ever since. Today, Justin shares his story of his amazing journey so far, a journey that isn't over, a journey in which he has lost over 280 pounds, but has gained so much more. It is a journey he will continue for the rest of his life, a never-ending goal of seeking optimal health. Hi, Justin. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you on the show. Your transformation so far is absolutely incredible, and it's been over a very short period of time, relatively speaking. So it kind of all started for you. You decided that you needed a change back at the beginning of 2015. Do you want to tell us a little bit about where you were, say, at the end then of 2014 and what your life was like at that time?
Yeah. At the beginning of 2015, I was easily over 500 pounds. But before that, I was always large my whole life. So in my whole life, it was just a constant trying to lose weight, trying to, not be the obese person, not being the fattest guy in the class or not being the biggest guy in the room, So my whole life I was trying to lose weight. But I think what really, really got to me around 2015 and more of a year or two before that was I started getting more health problems. I started getting lymphedema in my left leg, which it would get swollen to be twice the size of my right leg. My left leg would.
Oh, wow.
And it would literally leak lymph fluid. I'd have to, get a piece of paper towel or something, and it would literally be wet with the liquid. And I found out that it was like lymph fluid coming out of my leg, and it was kind of scary.
Yeah.
And that, by many doctors say that is incurable. They say, you're just going to have to live with it, maybe reduce salt or maybe have a compression wrap, something like that. And on top of that, I would have chronic tendonitis in my ankles and my feet. So for the last, 6 months to a year of 2014, I was either on crutches half the time or sometimes I couldn't even use crutches at all because the pain would be so bad in both feet that I couldn't even do anything. So for a lot of the time, I had to take crutches to work. I had to use crutches to go to the bathroom, get to and from different rooms of my house. It was awful. I also had some eye issues. Like I would always get my right eye would always cloud up and always have to fish stuff out of it. It's called eye fishing syndrome. And I did a lot of cigarette smoking. So I think that might have been a huge contributing factor to my eye. But all these health issues, along with all the other normal stuff, digestive problems, hemorrhoids, body pains, headaches, all that stuff, mainly the walking is what really got to me so much because I was just so annoyed by the fact that I couldn't move around normally,
Yeah.
And that's my personal reasons. But, I also had a mother who around 2013 or so, I believe, had a stroke. And it just really hit me because it was all happening the same time with all my health issues. And it was just so eye-opening to see her in a hospital bed, surrounded by people she cared about, and they were crying, in fear of her health, of her well-being. And I just got to thinking, almost like this instant aha moment, like, oh my gosh, what am I doing to myself? If I keep doing what I'm doing, eating all these horrible foods and being so overweight and unhealthy, I didn't want family members or friends to be saddened by my self-destructive behaviors. And all these things just, all at the same time were just being so realized by myself that I just said, at the beginning of 2015, no matter what it takes, it was this sacred self-promise, like this really hardcore oath that I made myself, that from this day until the day that I die, I want to be as healthy as I can be, no matter what it takes. So that's pretty much where it started. And I started off the low-carb diet at the beginning because that was my go-to,
Yeah, so it's incredible that you made that desire to change came upon you. But you said you were always trying to lose weight before that. So we'll get back to that transition point. But what had you tried in the past? Like, was it just the fad diets you were on, or like what was, if you were trying to lose weight, what did that look like for you?
Well, I think from a young age, I don't remember the exact age, maybe 12 or 13 years old, I was using what money I had at the time to buy books by Dr. Atkins, or go to the library and find books by Dr. Eads, protein power, because it was the thing at that time of everyone was going the low carb route. So I was doing that at such a young age, and I was eating the eggs and the bacon and the stuff that was low carb at that young of an age. And I would lose weight. I would lose like 70 pounds because I was always the heavy kid. I was always 200-300 pounds at a really young age. I was easily over 300 pounds in middle school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so my whole life, it was always the low-carb route, almost every single time. And I would gain it back every single time also, and then I would lose it, and then I would gain it back. It was an endless cycle.
So was that you turning that diet on and off?
Pretty much. I don't know if it just wasn't sustainable for me. I don't know if I just got so tired of watching portions. I'm not really sure what didn't allow me to continue it. I'm not sure if it was just, okay, I'm finally done, I need some carbs. I'm not really sure what it was. But I have lost over 100 pounds multiple times in my life. Back and forth. And I think every time that I tried to lose weight, it was always the low carb route. And I think that was also another reason why it just kept on going, 350, 380, 410, 440, 450. I think it just kept on getting bigger and bigger and bigger because I'd always just yo-yo every single time.
And you'd yo-yo up further than?
Yeah, always, every single time. And I think that that had a huge impact on all my health problems too, because your body's not meant to lose 100 pounds, gain 150. It's just really not.
No, absolutely not. So you decided that that's it. You're gonna be health focused from now on. January 1, let's say 2015. So you tried the approach, really the only approach you've ever known.
Right, and that's another huge change. And I think this is almost the most important part of my journey is that I actually did start focusing on health versus just losing weight. Like, I didn't care in the past how I lost it. I would actually try to do like water fasting in the past as well.
Oh, okay.
Just because I was a big researcher and I was always trying to learn about health in general, just out of necessity, because I was always trying to learn how fat works and how body fat is lost and why. And, I learned that water fasting was a great tool to lose weight, but it was also really good for, health overall.
Yeah.
And that's what almost kept me going, is focusing on being healthy and healing my health issues. And for some reason that made such a difference in the way I looked at food, the way I looked at activity, the way I did everything. So yeah, looking at health versus just weight loss is probably one of the most important things I'd say for myself.
Yeah. So how did those first few months go? You tried the low carb, and did you initially have success like you had before? Or?
Well, I'm sure I did. I really don't know, but I also made a a little statement to myself saying, you know what? I know what I've done in the past. I know what worked, what didn't work. I told myself everything that I did in the past, I was just going to try not to do, because obviously it wasn't like a long-term, plan.
Yeah.
So I actually didn't weigh myself at all, not even before, because I knew I was easily over 500 pounds, which I knew that because months prior, I actually tried to go on a little local weight loss competition with some friends and family, and I had to go to a clinic to weigh myself. And I remember weighing in at 491, and that challenge was just a huge flop. I didn't really do anything with it, but I do remember the months following after were probably some of the worst of my eating, and I just remember physically noticing, more weight gain. So I knew that it had to be well over 500 pounds.
Okay.
But the very first few months, I was just kind of doing what I always have, cutting out the carbs, eating more, animal products and lower calorie foods, and maybe incorporating a little bit of vegetables. But, I really didn't notice too much physical change just because I was so big. For me, if I lost 50 pounds, it wasn't too much of a noticeable difference for myself, So I actually started seeing a lot of infomercials on TV for like smoothies, and everyone's using, the NutriBlast and Bullet and all these things. So I figured, I'm going to start eating more fruit just because I knew it was more nutrients, and I knew I needed something besides all this, turkey slices and bacon and fish, whatever I was eating at the time. So that was like maybe 3 months after, maybe, March, April, I started incorporating more fruit, more smoothies, and more greens. I started adding more spinach and stuff like that to my smoothies too. So,
and really that was just an effort to try something different.
Right. And that was my main focus too. It was like, I knew that this low carb thing had to, I knew it needed to be something different, because it never made me feel good. It never made me feel energetic, or it was always like a struggle. Every time I went on the low carb diet, it was almost like I was fighting against the current. It really did, every single time. And the exercise was hard, and I don't know. So everything I did, I tried to make it a little bit different.
Okay. And so did you have success when you started having smoothies and greens and stuff like that, or?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I actually didn't weigh myself from the very beginning, and I didn't weigh myself the very first time until probably October or November of that year. So I went a really long time without weighing myself, but, I started seeing a little bit of difference, I guess.
Did you feel better?
I felt a little bit better, as far as adding more spinach and fruit, but I was still eating, I was kind of halfway doing things,
Okay.
I wasn't really fully in as far as as healthy as I could be, because, whenever I started this, I told myself there wasn't a time frame. I wasn't trying to lose a bunch of weight within a 90-day period. I told myself I didn't care if it took me 1 year, 4 years, 20 years, as long as I was on a progression to get healthier. So I was kind of slowly getting there as far as eating more nutrients and more fiber and, healthier choices. And then after that is when I started really looking into more about health. So I started adding myself to Facebook groups. All these people who were, making smoothies, because I was trying to find new recipes for stuff that maybe I haven't had in the past. So I would get on these plant groups because I figured they were talking about smoothies. I actually had no idea the plant-based lifestyle even existed at the time. So around April and May of that year is when I really started just adding myself to probably a dozen or more Facebook groups. And that's kind of where it all began.
Okay. So what did you see that kind of sparked more interest or a change in perspective for you?
Well, like I said, I was still doing the low carb thing, but I was also having smoothies. So I knew that I couldn't be having so many carbs while also doing the low carb diet. It was kind of, I don't know what I was doing. I was just trying to just feel it out, I suppose. But whenever I added myself to these groups, I added myself to this one group. I think it was called Earth Friendly Choices. And that was just amongst other, like a whole list of other groups. Anything that had to do with health or, smoothies or anything. I just started adding myself to it. And when I was in that one group, the admin, a wonderful woman named Deborah, she changed my life. And it was the most simple thing. She was just the admin for the group, or one of the admins. And she sent me a message saying, welcome to the group. I don't really know the specifics of what she said, but it was just like, hey, what brought you to a plant-based lifestyle? And I had no idea what she was talking about. I was like, well, I'm not into that. I just, I'm looking into getting healthier. And I think she asked me a couple of questions, and I kind of told her, well, I'm looking into losing weight, and I have a bunch of health issues, and I'm trying to get rid of, because at that time I was still having those issues. I was still having my legs swell up. I was still having my ankles and feet hurt all the time, So she said something about, I started talking about my mom and her health issues, and she sent me a video of Dr. John McDougall on stage at some sort of presentation. It was an hour and 15 minutes long, called Start Solution. And I was like, yeah, let's give it a watch. And I'm listening to this guy talking about healing and losing weight by eating rice and potatoes and fruit and beans and all these things. I'm just like, this guy's crazy. So that kind of contradicted everything I've learned my whole life. Don't eat potatoes and rice. Well, this is, the opposite. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's check this out. So I don't know when that was. I think that was in May, whenever I first started watching those videos. And I kind of went on a frenzy of watching as many videos as I could. And then I heard about the movie Forks Over Knives, and I watched it. And it just, my eyes were more open than they were. So I started looking up all the doctors in the movies and started looking up, hours and hours and hours. I mean, ridiculous amounts of time was spent of me watching all these doctors talking, an hour-long presentation here, an hour-long presentation there. I'd watch veg source videos, and I'd, as much information as I could get about the science behind it. June 1st, I decided to go on a 10-day water fast to kind of give me a jump start. It would, I knew that water fasting helps reset the mind, the chemistry, the blood, the taste buds. So I figured if I was getting off a bunch of stuff and going to a plant-based way of eating, it would maybe be more beneficial to water fast, because it would help reset me, It really did help my digestive. I mean, it was almost night and day after the 10-day water fast. And when I started eating nothing but plants, it was just instantly, within a week or two, it was wow, I'm regular for the first time in a long time. And after that, just a whole bunch of stuff started changing.
So what changed? Tell us a little bit about those first couple of months of plant-based.
Yeah, well, it wasn't super clean. It wasn't whole foods. I was still getting used to the idea. And I think it's everyone's same journey, but they go plant-based, and they're just so befounded on, what do I eat? I don't even know what I should be eating right now. Yeah. And that's kind of funny for me even thinking back to that. But first couple months, I was eating a lot of veggie burgers, like boga burgers on whole wheat buns. And I was making baked fries, out of potatoes. And I was eating more smoothies and a lot of white rice, a lot of high sodium stuff like soy sauce. But what I noticed is that my tendinitis in my feet and ankles didn't come back. It just, I guess the water fasting helped, but by continuing to eat, no animal products and no oils, it was just really, I could start walking, I could move around a little bit. I was still very heavy.
Yeah.
But the main thing that I realized is the energy. Like by eating a lot of potatoes and rice, I was just like, whoa, like it was almost like, what am I on right now? There's so much energy going through me. So yeah, I just noticed feeling really good. I noticed that my digestion was so much better. Everything was better. My eyes were clearing up. My leg wouldn't swell as bad. I was still maybe eating way too much sodium at the time. Because, like I said, I really loved soy sauce and white rice, and I would add raw spinach to it, and that was my go-to meal for the longest time. Actually, in the beginning, was spinach, soy sauce, and spinach and rice and soy sauce, but also we would add kimchi to it, which is very high in sodium.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I would progressively just get cleaner with my food. I started cutting out, because actually in the very first month or so, I would put just a few drops of like coconut oil, just because I was like, so this is going to stick. I don't know how to cook without using a little bit of oil. But that was very short-lived, maybe a week or two.
Okay.
And before that, though, like I said, I was smoking and drinking. So very first thing I gave up at the beginning of 2015 was cigarettes and alcohol. So I stopped smoking, and that I think that had obviously a beneficial effect, obviously. And then I also cut out caffeine because I was really big into energy drinks and coffee kind of before I started everything. So I knew that I needed to get that out just because it was an addictive stimulant and I didn't really care to have it in my life. So I cut that out too. So it was actually cigarettes, alcohol, caffeine. Later on, cut out animal products. Then I cut out oils. And then I kind of progressively after that started cutting out processed foods. If it came in a box or a package, it was highly processed, I really did not want to eat it. I had a rare treat every once in a while. Twice a month I might have a veggie burger or something like that at that point.
Okay. And so it was really a desire, like you felt a desire to cut those things out of your life, like you didn't need them anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, for me, I had this mentality of, I wanted to be optimally healthy, optimal, like as healthy as I could be. So I knew that if it was a processed food, it would raise blood sugars, or it would be high, more caloric, or it would have added stuff in it, like either chemicals or extra salt. So I knew that if it was processed, it wasn't optimal, and I knew I didn't need it. And I did start noticing more and more of a change physically. So I decided to weigh myself. Like I said, the very first time I weighed myself was 10 or 11 months after I started everything. And I don't know exactly what I weighed before, but the very first time I stepped on the scale, it said 365.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't believe it. I wasn't even close to believing it. So I actually had to wake my brother up. He was asleep in the next room, and I was like, man, you have to get on the scale and tell me if this is right, because this don't make sense. Because it was a scale that I bought when I was in college. I mean, it was a good 10-year-old scale that
this thing's broken.
Exactly. And every time I stepped on it in the past, it would just say ER, which it was like it was grunting at me or something, but it stood for air. But yeah, he got on the scale and he's like, yeah, try it. And I was like, no way. So I guess the very first time I weighed myself, I realized I lost about 135 plus pounds.
Wow, man.
So I guess, the low carb stuff was working. The smoothies were helping. The low carb or the plant-based lifestyle obviously jump-started everything. And it just kept on getting cleaner and cleaner. It started, losing more and more weight. I started doing more activity, which actually for the first year to a year and a half, I didn't do any physical activity.
Okay.
I might have walked out in the woods with a friend or two because I was doing a lot of mushroom hunting. I was always into, finding mushrooms, like wild edible mushrooms.
Oh, that's awesome.
And but I was always very out of shape. So it was actually not the most pleasant experience for myself. But I started doing that a little bit more because I was a little bit lighter. I was highly energetic. So I'd go on, more hunts and more hikes. I'd try to do a little bit of walking.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And so up to this October, were you following more of McDougall's starch-based approach?
Well, I honestly never followed any specific doctor's layout. I just knew that I needed to give up animal products and oils and processed food. Mainly, those were the three things that I just knew that all doctors seemed to agree on being things that needed to be out of the diet.
So then when you gave it up, you said before it was like rice, spinach, and soy sauce. So you're cutting out the processed stuff. What did you switch to? What was a typical day, say back in September or October 2015?
Well, I would make a lot of soups. I would make a lot of chili, beans and tomatoes and, onions and celery and peppers with maybe some, diced tomatoes. And I'd put that over a baked potato.
Okay.
I was really looking into the fruitarian side of things, but not fully. I was kind of looking at all the different options out there. People who were fruitarian or people who were raw vegan or just more of a McDougall starch based. But I would eat a lot of fruit. I would really, really start. I actually got into bananas a lot, so I'd eat a whole lot of bananas.
You and me both.
And then I started. Yeah. I mean, I honestly got to a point to where I was having bananas every day for 3 months in multiple quantities. So I actually got with the local grocery store and the manager in the produce section, and he sold me 100 pounds of overripe bananas for like $10. So I actually got a deep freeze solely for that reason, and I still have the deep freeze, and I still have bananas in it. But the bad news is, I guess, by me eating so many bananas, I don't know what happened or what caused it, but me and Tim Kaufman, I'm sure you've interviewed the wonderful guy.
Yeah, he's a prior guest.
Yeah, we actually agreed to go on a 3-day water fast because he was like interested in it and wanted to see how it made him feel. So we kind of did a little experiment. We both, I told him I would water fast with him because, I've fasted dozens and dozens of times. But after that water fast, I tried to have a banana smoothie, and I got sick, and I didn't know I didn't know what it was. I thought I was just getting sick with something. So then I had another banana smoothie. I got really sick, and then over a week of being like sick off and on, I started noticing that I can't eat bananas anymore. Every time I eat a banana, I got sick. I don't know if it was a latex allergy or a banana intolerance So I still have a deep freeze full of bananas that I can't eat.
Oh, that's really sad. I hope I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I hope it. I mean, it's been months since I've tried again, so I'm hoping maybe that was just something temporary. I'm not sure. I'm kind of scared to go back to it. But it's a kind of interesting story.
That is interesting. I can't remember the last day I haven't had a banana, honestly.
Yeah, I love bananas. I love them so much. Like I said, I was having them every day for over 3 months, and I think that might have been, I don't know what it was. But
interesting. Well, you can develop allergies later in life, so.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so you followed a similar approach to me, though, where it's like you basically gathered information from a whole range of doctors, and without following any one particular's set pattern. It's like, I'm going to do the Dr. Furman diet for 6 weeks.
Right.
You kind of took what you felt was good from all of them and kind of mixed it together.
Yeah, I also had this other approach, kind of a personal approach, because I heard all these doctors talking about how our taste buds can change. And I know that I always used to like, certain fruits and vegetables, just not to the extent that maybe I should have. So I was not eating stuff like kale. I wasn't eating a lot of, certain other fruits. Like, I always disliked watermelon, which was always kind of weird because everyone around here just loves watermelon. I just never did care for it.
Yeah.
So I told myself that if there's a food that I didn't like kale or watermelon or cantaloupe or whatever these things that I may not have been too keen on eating in the past, I was going to try to like it, or at least try to understand it, because I know these things have health benefits. So I remember buying watermelon and eating it and not really liking it. So I bought another one. I ate it, didn't really like it. I just kept on doing that over and over. And I started really loving watermelon. So I started doing that with everything that I could. I started buying more kale. I really didn't care for it. I tried it raw. I tried it blended. I tried it, cooked. And eventually I started really liking these things. I think I was also kind of getting rid of the old mentality of like, oh, food has to be this super pleasurable thing. I have to, I used it as a drug. It's always, I think that was my main thing is like, if I was, because before I was a big meat eater and I actually physically said to, I'm sure a couple of people, I will never give up eating meat.
Oh, I've said it.
So I was really into barbecuing, and I remember spending 8 to 12 hours smoking a Boston butt pork roast and making the barbecue sauce as good as I could. It was almost the whole time I was trying to fix these foods, like a barbecue sandwich, I would spend hours perfecting each ingredient because I knew if I made the coleslaw impeccably delicious with the perfect sauce, the perfect bun, the perfect pork, then it would be this ultimate experience of almost like a drug-like experience. Because back then it wasn't. It was just food.
Yeah.
But, in hindsight, it was like, wow, I was in a drug lab trying to make this pleasure bomb. It's exactly what I was doing.
And isn't it funny looking back, thinking that there's food with the name butt in it?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. It's literally like waking up in the Matrix now.
Yeah.
Everything is so different. And looking back on the way that I did things and ate things and said things, it's almost like I have to laugh at myself because I was just so uneducated on everything that I was doing. And it was hurting myself. That's why I was overweight. That's why I was sick. That's why my mom had a stroke. That's why everyone in my family and all my surrounding friends are sick with their diseases because they don't know what they're doing to themselves. I didn't know. I just always try to go to McDonald's, spend a couple dollars on a couple cheeseburgers and, go about my day.
Yeah.
But it's just not worth it. It's just too much damaging factors that people just don't know about. And I do look back on that and I kind of cringe, but I also do kind of laugh at it because it's just like, man, I just had such a warped mentality over it.
Well, you kind of have to laugh at it so that you don't get jaded and cynical, really, right?
Right.
Recently, my wife was like going through old wedding stuff. And so we got married just over 5 years ago and we filled out a questionnaire for her maid of honor. And it was asking, like, we were supposed to answer questions for each other. And my favorite food was meat. That was it. Meat, right? And it's just, looking back, it's like, holy crap, how far have we come, really?
No, it's great, though. Like, I don't think I've ever been so grateful in my life to find something as simple as plants,
Simple and powerful.
It's really it's that profound for me.
So, after October, you weighed yourself. Did you start weighing yourself more frequently then, or to kind of keep track, or did you just?
Yeah, well, I always tried to stay away from it, and I really did. I really didn't weigh myself too often. It wasn't like I never set goals. I never really tried to do that. But yeah, I did catch myself weighing myself more just because I was like, man, how much am I going to lose this month? So, I would maybe step on it every once in a while. And through the months, I just kind of kept on doing the same stuff, maybe, trying a different approach as far as, what meals I ate. And I would notice, they just kept on dropping. And I remember getting down to 325 and the scale wouldn't move for the longest time. I mean, it was, 325, 330. I was like, man, I realized that I need to cut out the white rice because I was eating a lot of white rice, and I tried to maybe reduce maybe some smoothies because I was, maybe it was too many calories too easily. But the whole year of 2016, it's almost like a blur because I just remember. Just trying new things, new recipes. I'd go on a chili kick where I'd had chili every day for months. I had on my smoothie kick. I had the rice kick. I remember I think right now I'm on a sweet potato kick. It's my like go-to food now. It's all I eat is like sweet potatoes, Japanese sweet potatoes. By far my favorite food of all time. I don't know if you've ever had the Japanese ones, but they're amazing. They're so good.
They are. They're extra starchy.
Oh man, they're so good. But yeah, just progressively, I noticed, I'd hit plateaus here and there after I started weighing myself. So that almost allowed me to adjust things better. Like, okay, I haven't lost any weight in a couple weeks. Let's cut this out. Okay, we're back on track with losing. And then, I finally got down to 300 and I hit, 298. And I was like, wow, I haven't been under 300 in years, probably since I was in at least middle school.
How tall are you?
I'm around 5'8" to 5'10". I really don't know. I think it's about 5. I'd say 5'8 and a half, 5'9".
Okay.
Yeah, for the longest time I told people I was 5'10", but then I got like evaluated at the local gym 8 months ago and they said 5'8". So I was like, well, I guess I've been wrong for a long time. Yeah.
So when did you start adding more exercise other than your trips to the woods foraging? Yeah,
well, I did a lot of walking, especially out on trails and stuff. But it really started to change whenever I found a few people online. The very first person who I found on this plant-based way of eating who's lost a significant amount of weight was a guy named Jared Monosmith. He weighed, I think it was over 460 pounds, and he lost over 260 pounds, I believe, by eating mainly all plant-based, but a lot of fruit. He was doing more of a raw to afford style, and he basically went raw for the longest time. And I noticed he was into bike riding. So he was riding his bike across great distances. I think he would ride it across 1,500, 2,000 miles, like across, Washington and California. I don't really know the specifics, but he had such an impact on me because as I was doing my own thing and it was working, but then I saw another person who it was working for, and someone who has actually transitioned from very obese to very fit, very thin and very active. And that just gave me this huge mental boost of like, wow, that's something I want to strive for, is to fully be, healthy, not just this transitional period, And then I started getting on the exercise bike. My mom gave me an exercise bike. I would set it up in front of my computer screen, and I would turn on concerts. I would watch, an hour-long concert of one performer, this performer, just like all sorts of people, old classic rock to new age stuff, a lot of, 70s rock. But I would just ride that bike for 10 miles, 15 miles, and then I was doing up to 20 miles, I'd sit on there for a whole concert. And to me, it was just kind of fun because I was just watching a concert, but to me, I was burning calories in a fun way. It was almost like I was dancing while the music was happening. So that's I don't really know when that started as far as time period. I know it was roughly about 1.5 years to 1.25 years after I first started.
Okay.
But then I found another guy that you might know, Josh LaJaunie. I saw him.
Yeah, he's been on as well.
I don't even know where I first saw him. I think it was Big Change the Film was when because I was part of so many plant-based groups at that time. It's just I was in the community. I was in the community now. I actually connected with Jared through Facebook, and we actually talked a little bit back and forth. And then I remember adding Josh LaJaunie, but then I really noticed, how he was a runner, and that got me thinking, wow, I never thought of myself as being a runner, but I knew that it would burn a lot of calories. I knew that it would be very fitness promoting because, you're moving your arms, you're moving your legs. And honestly, whenever I sat on the exercise bike for the longest period of time, it would actually be kind of painful for me because I don't know. I wasn't really like the thought of sitting down so long, I guess. I don't know. But running really intrigued me because I saw what it, did for him. And then shortly after that, I found Tim Kaufman through his page, Fat Man Rants Facebook page. And I just started a gym membership July of 2016. And I started swimming a lot in the very beginning. I was doing more swimming than anything, actually.
Okay.
Because I know I really wasn't too mobile. I mean, I was mobile. I was a lot less heavy than I was, but I knew it'd be less impact on my joints, and I was kind of just getting used to the idea of being more fit. But then I started running, which was a very, very slow progression. I actually started before the gym opened up in July. It was actually a brand new gym they built in my town, Dexter, Missouri, which is a small, small town of like 7,000, 8,000 people. But they built a new gym, and it opened up around July 4th or July 5th, I believe. But before that, I remember I was working at the radio station, and I would do more walking. I would start just walking in the building back and forth, on breaks. And I started actually doing more running in the building, just in the small building back and forth. I would run for a minute at a time.
Okay.
And progressively, I remember running my first 5 minutes without stopping. And I was like, wow, I can actually maybe do this. And then the gym opened up, and I started doing more and more and more. And I started doing half a mile, and that was like mind-blowingly cool. But whenever I first ran my first mile, I was blown away. I was like, there's no way this is happening. Because in high school, we would always have like the mile run. Everyone would try to run the mile. I never in my life did that. I never completed it, without stopping. Or I was always being one of the last kids to finish. So that was profound for me whenever that first happened. And then I just really got into the running thing a lot. At first it wasn't like this enjoyable thing where it was like, okay, I have to get this down. It's not really comfortable right now. I was having a lot of knee pain and hip pain. So I started learning more about form, proper breathing, proper, posture, everything that made running a little bit better for me. And then I started doing more. I started running 2 miles, 3 miles, 4 miles. And I got really expensive, running shoes and started learning about fueling better. And, everything just started getting better and better and better. And, I'm up to, I can run 13. I can do a half marathon now, which
that's awesome, man.
Is just beyond incredible considering where I was at 2 years ago, having to use crutches just to go use the bathroom,
Yeah.
And no more health issues. I don't have lymphedema. I don't have tendonitis. I don't have any eye issues. I'm, zero health issues, high energy, constant running. It's incredible.
Well, you're doing the Leadville half this June,
I
right?
am.
June 2017?
Yeah, June 17, me and Tim Kaufman and Josh Lajani and another guy, Jason Cohen. Actually, Jason Cohen is the reason I'm doing it. He interviewed me back about a year ago, right when I was at the 300 mark. As my very first interview, I was like, wow, it's kind of cool being interviewed. I just, at the time when I got interviewed, I didn't feel like I was part of the club, I guess. I didn't I was in the middle of my journey, and I see people like Jared and Tim and Josh, like how they're way more fit than me and doing more physical activity. So I was kind of weary about being interviewed at the time. But after it was all over, he said something about, he's like, hey, you should run Leadville with us. And at that time, I think it was June or May, I'm not really sure when it was, but it was before I started really running. I was kind of just now, dipping my toes in the running world. But he said, you should run Leadville with us. And I saw that it was a half marathon, a heavy half, 15 and a half miles. And without even thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely going to do it.
Awesome.
And that was kind of my mentality. My whole, adult life is if there's something that I want to do, I'm just going to do it and make it happen. And it's always worked out. And that's always the case. I think that's a huge secret in people's lives that could benefit them. If they realize that if they want to do something, they just say they're going to do it and make it happen with, no matter what it takes. And that's what really propelled me to be, I think, running as much as I did. Because whenever he said that, I'm like, of course. Because when I said yes, I haven't even ran my first mile yet.
Yeah.
But I agreed to doing this 15 and a half mile marathon up a mountain. So I don't know. I was kind of like, I don't know. I think I had second thoughts after I said yes. I'm like, what did I just do?
Buyer's remorse.
But it really drove me. I mean, Jason, when he asked me that and I agreed, it was just like, it gave me this laser focus. Like, and I already had this laser focus for the weight loss and the health and the healing, but it all switched after that. It was like, all right, I'm already getting healthy. I know that's happening. I'm already losing weight. That's good. Let's become a runner. Let's get this thing down. Learn how the body works. And so that was a huge thing that propelled me is thinking about running that heavy half marathon with them.
Yeah.
And then actually it started like snowballing. People like Tim started to join, and then now I think there's got to be at least 20 different people who have lost a significant amount of weight on the plant-based lifestyle. Even Jared recently said he's going to go, and Dr. Lori Marbus is going to be there.
Her and Jason were both on the show as well. It's like a Mended Paths reunion there.
Yeah. Well, you also interviewed Howard Jacobson, I believe.
That's right. He's going as well, yeah.
Yeah, and actually, a lot of people you've interviewed have also interviewed me. At least 4 of them have interviewed me.
That's wicked.
It's like we're all just one awesome community. And that's another thing, too, is like the community is like getting connected with other people and learning what they do and learning how they do things and recipes. And it's really, really a motivator for people. I mean, it motivated me. I don't know where I'd be now if I didn't find people like Jared Monosmith, Tim Kaufman, Josh Lajani, Jason Cohen. All these people had such an impact on me progressing more. I was already on this journey, but then these other people started like getting in my life somehow. And I get asked to do a marathon. I get asked to do this and that. I'm like, wow. And it's still driving me. Like, Leadville is just a couple months away. And
3 months today, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. It
3
is.
months today.
Man, I got to get to work. But no, I mean, it's just so amazing. Like, the gratification factor.
I like that perspective you had where it's like you decide that you're going to do something and you just go do it. You don't take no for an answer. And like, I've always said that as well. Like, failure is just a pit stop on your way to success, because
exactly
very few people go out and succeed on the first try. Right? Most people think you depart and you arrive at success, when it's like you start and it's fail, success. Right. And it's like Muhammad Ali said, he can never beat the man that never gives up.
That's so true. I'm actually a big analogy person. I always seem to have an analogy for something. And I remember telling somebody once, and I think way before I even started my health journey, but I was telling people about the simplicity of saying that you want something and then going to get it. So I remember telling someone, imagine if there was a candy bar on the table and you're just in a chair just a few feet away and you want that candy bar. You tell your brain you want that, you stand up, you walk over, and you go get it. It's that simple. And for me, it's like you can replace that candy bar with anything. If it's running a marathon or losing 300 pounds, whatever it is, if you want it, all you have to do is stand up, go to it, and pick it up. Now, it may not be that easy because you may have something in your way. Well, you might have to step over it. You might have to go around. You might have all these obstacles in your way, but it should never make you stop trying to get it. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, it's that simple. All you have to do is want it. And I think because I wanted it so badly my whole life and kind of made it a promise to myself in the very beginning, I just had this laser focus the whole time, and it's still there, is just as strong as it was, if not stronger, because I don't want to be 80 years old in a wheelchair or a nursing home. I want to be that 80-year-old guy who's like climbing a mountain or doing some crazy thing that shouldn't be done, but it's not like it's a crazy thing, because I think humans are meant to do stuff like this. We're not meant to be in wheelchairs. We're not meant to be on medications. I mean,
absolutely.
That all that all used to be my mentality. So I thought it was normal for people to be sick. But now it's like, no, we're not. We're not. We're supposed to be healthy and happy our whole lives, you know?
Yeah, it's not inevitable.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, your slow decline is not inevitable.
Yeah.
Shablunkin at 80. Let's hope for that.
Yeah.
So I ask my guests, for a path mender that is either just starting their transition or maybe sitting on the fence, what is, if you could boil it down, what is one piece of advice you would give them?
Man, I could talk for hours about multiple things, but I think that the ultimate thing is what I already said. I think you have to just want it, and you can't let anything stop you. You have to, if your goal is to be healthy, then stop putting things that damage your body into the body. You know what I mean? If you want to be optimally healthy, if you want to lose weight, if you want to get rid of a disease, if that's your laser focus, that's what you want, you have to just constantly go after it, no matter what. So if it means getting rid of a meat or getting rid of dairy or oil, that has to happen. You know, you have to not put stuff in your body that could damage you. So that's just what I always tell myself. If it damages my body, I don't want it in my body, because I don't want to go back to that sick, overweight person, you know?
Yeah.
Because what I want is to be really healthy and really not sick and not in pain and not in a wheelchair when I'm older. You know, that's what I want. Everyone has a certain why. And whether it be their health, their family, their loved ones, whatever it may be, they have the reason why. They just have to lock that in with a laser focus and do not let anything stop you from getting the results that you want, whether it be anything. And this could be, you know, in any realm of life, you know, if it's business or if it's relationships, whatever it is, you just have to have your reason why, want it with a really strong passion, and go straight to it. You know, whatever obstacles may come, you know, you're just going to have to get through it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, don't take no for an answer.
Exactly. I mean, like I was telling someone before, you know, it's like driving somewhere. You know, you have a destination in mind. You know, if I'm going to go to work, I know I take the shortest route. But what if there's a detour? Okay, big deal. I'm going to have to maybe take an extra mile around.
Yeah, you don't go home.
Right, exactly. You don't just stop. You know you have to get to work. It's just, yeah, okay, you might have to take a detour, but guess what? Even that detour is like there's a big old hole in the road, so you might have to go around some other way. But then again, you might have your car break down, so you might actually have to get out and walk. Well, you might break a leg. You might actually have to crawl. Whatever it takes, you have to keep going. You have to keep on keeping that promise to yourself to get yourself what you want. Because if you wanted it badly enough, then why are you, you know, you're trying for a reason, because you want it. So just keep on going for it, because what do you have to lose, you know?
So much by not doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's life changing, and all it is pushing through the bad stuff. And for me, I think it's just waiting it out. Like to transition from eating, you know, a standard American diet to a plant-based way of eating, you literally just have to wait. And it may be kind of a struggle and frustrating to like be craving meat and craving oils and craving processed foods. But after a while, it gets out of your bloodstream. You don't actually have to be feeling that way the whole time. After a certain period, you actually start loving not eating meat and not eating oils and not eating processed food. It's like you really crave health versus pleasure from food. It's just, you have to just wait out the bad stuff, really.
Yeah. And not to say you don't get pleasure from food now.
Right. I mean, I eat some of the most delicious stuff I ever have in my life. And it's the most healthiest stuff. I mean, people call it rabbit food, but it's super, super delicious, you know?
Yeah. Rabbits are living like kings.
And they have. Man, I've been missing out my whole life,
Well, at the end of the day, like people don't eat meat because of the flavor. They season it, right? Yeah. You like the seasonings of it.
Exactly. And I can make Brussels sprouts taste like meatballs these days. I mean, you could just replace meat with a vegetable, season it the same way, and it's going to taste super similar. It really is that simple.
Yeah. And your taste buds adjust and all that fun stuff as well. So yeah.
Oh, they do. And your mentality, for me, it's like people only get sick and get overweight because they say, but it tastes good. Like that simple statement by saying, well, it tastes good. It's the only reason people are getting sick. Yeah. That was my reason. I mean, why would I ever give up meat? Why would I give that up when it tastes so good?
Well, people are speaking out of addiction most of the time, right? Like I've touched on this
exactly
before. Yeah, it's like same thing with the smoking. Like I used to smoke, and I said, well, I enjoy smoking. I didn't enjoy smoking.
Oh, no, I was actually going to say the exact same thing. Whenever I look at junk food or oils and fats now, I see nothing different than a syringe and some heroin or whatever drug you choose. I see nothing different. Whenever someone tells me, "Oh, I can't give up my soda," or "Oh, I can't give up my steak or my meat," they might as well say, "Oh, I can't give up my heroin."
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing. They both kill you over a long period of time. They're both addictive. They're both horrible for the body. It's just because it tastes good, the same way that drugs make people feel good. It's the exact same thing. And that was a huge realization for me, is that I had an addiction.
Yeah.
I had a horrible addiction, obviously, because the side effects of food addiction is lots and lots of body fat. And that's what I had in large amounts.
So what do you weigh now? How far are you down now?
I'm down to 228, give or take a pound or two. I'm not really sure because it fluctuates with water. But
so almost 300 pounds down.
Almost 300 pounds down. I wish it really is. I'm still going. I'm still trying to lose. I haven't really lost too much weight recently. I kind of got comfortable eating my potatoes and maybe comfortable with like a certain pace. So maybe I need to just get outside of my comfort zone again. And that's another thing. It's just I'm always getting outside of my comfort zone. Every month or two, I'm always trying to change something up, Yeah. And I actually like it because that's where growth happens, I love getting out of my comfort zone now.
Well, you're not going to get better results doing the same thing. You always got to push forward, onward and upward.
Yeah. And after Leadville, I plan on, doing another event, maybe something bigger. I'd like to get into, full marathon, and I really, really want to start training for an ultra, doing a 30-plus miler,
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, best of luck with your journey. You've come so far, and I know you've got so far to go as well.
Oh, yeah. People try to, tell me how awesome I've done, and I just tell them, you have no idea what I'm going to be doing. Like, I'm just getting started. Like, I really am.
I ain't
and I'm
dead
excited.
Yet.
Exactly, man.
Well, thank you so much for talking to us today.
Absolutely. I really appreciate the time.
Well, that's all the time we have for this week. Thank you so much for listening to the Mended Paths Podcast at www.mendedpaths.com. If you haven't already done so, please like our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/Mended Paths. See you all next time.
Visit mendedpaths.com and get back to bed now.